President Trump is wrong in his Facebook post from last night. This is not a witch hunt that's going on here. And Democrats know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they've got. The Obama administration left all this stuff in place for them to use. There's not a witch hunt. There is the execution of an attempt at a peaceful coup. A peaceful coup to oust Donald Trump is what we are witnessing and is being orchestrated by Obama and the Democrat Party. It's that simple.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
It is not a witch hunt. They're not blindly hoping they find things as they open doors. They know what's behind the doors. They put the stuff there. Greetings, folks. Here we are wrapping up another fantastic week of broadcast excellence, right behind the golden EIB microphone. Your guiding light, Rush Limbaugh, here at 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. Now, look, while all of this is going on, there are other things happening that are not even showing up on the back page. Speaking euphemistically, there aren't any back pages on websites and TV broadcasts, but I mean, it's being shelved back to the back, and that's what's being done with the Obamacare repeal. Rand Paul is trying to get people to pay attention to it, but it's tough to crack through this. And I just want to mention this to get it out there, and I hope to be able to circle back to it. But a bunch of Republican senators who really not, it's a House bill, so the senators are literally not entitled to see it, so Rand Paul's not being denied anything here, but he does have a vested interest in Obamacare being completely repealed and replaced. And there is a repeal replacement bill somewhere. It's behind locked doors. It's under lock and key, and the Republican leadership isn't letting anybody see it. And nobody knows why, but the informed speculation is that it doesn't do much. That it is being called Obamacare Light and really isn't going to make much of a difference at all. And that is why the Republican leadership doesn't want anybody seeing it right now. There's even a couple allusions to the fact there might be a couple new entitlements in it as part of the replacement. So there things that also matter are out there and are happening, and they're taking place while everybody is looking at this other stuff. Now, this is not a diversionary tactic. This stuff is real here. This coup, this silent coup that is taking place is real. I'm not suggesting that the Obamacare repeal people are using all this as a diversion. It's just what's happening. Jeff Sessions should not have recused himself. He's got nothing to be defensive about. He didn't do anything wrong. He certainly should not resign, which is now what the Democrats are asking, which was predicted. Everything, virtually everything that has led to Jeff Sessions recusing himself from whatever investigations there are into the Russians hacking the election is fake news. The questions that Al Franken was asking Senator Sessions during his confirmation hearings based on a fake news story, that now famous dossier made up of totally fraudulent, phony allegations about Trump, such as hiring prostitutes to urinate on the bed in a Moscow hotel that Obama and Michelle had slept on. Totally false, fake. Questions are being asked of Sessions about that. And it all just descends from there. Fox News reported moments ago that, Sessions met with the Russian ambassador twice, and it was Obama administrations who set up one of Sessions' meetings with the Russian ambassador. It happened in 2016. Turns out Senator Sessions spoke to the Russian ambassador on the invitation of the Obama administration. Fox News here. You can read it at theinsurgent.com. The first came at a conference on global partners in diplomacy. Sessions was the keynote speaker. It was sponsored by the State Department, the Heritage Foundation, and several other organizations. It was in Cleveland during the Republican National Convention. The conference was an educational program for ambassadors invited by the Obama State Department to observe the convention. The Obama State Department handled all the coordination with ambassadors and their staff. This ambassador, this Russian ambassador, has been to the White House countless times, as ambassadors do. He's met with Obama over 20 times. Do you know that the Russian ambassador, with whom all of these Trump people are talking about rigging the election, do you know that this ambassador was at Trump's speech to the joint session of Congress on Tuesday night, and he was seated with the Democrats? Do you know that he's one of the best friends of Chuck Schumer? Folks, I'm going to tell you something. The real Russian link to be investigated, if you really want to get to the bottom of what's happening, I'm going to tell you the first lie. The first lie is that Donald Trump loves Vladimir Putin. The second lie is that Vladimir Putin loves Donald Trump. The third lie is that Putin and Trump have had numerous dealings together because of this mutual bromance that they have. And Trump and Putin are cooking up all kinds of things to benefit Trump personally. Lie number 4, because they want all of this, Trump and Putin work together to hack the election to deny her rightful victory to Hillary Clinton. Those are the lies that establish everything else that follows. The truth of the matter is, if you want to get to the real Russian link, if you want to discover what the real Russian link to be investigated is, it is the Russian link to Obama. We are in the midst of an out-of-control insanity. We're in the midst of a news cycle, the details of which I don't think even most of the drive-bys even are clued in about. They're just reporting it by rote as it is leaked to them, as it is handed to them. But if there's any sabotage going on here, it starts with Barack Obama and the Russians. Now, the first lie, how many of you are under the belief, because of what you've heard in the news, that Trump and Putin love each other? And if Putin loves Trump, Trump loves Putin, and they've had dealings, and they've got private affairs going on back there. They've been making money with each other, deals, whatever it is. And you've heard that Trump will not criticize Putin, and you've heard that Trump responded very favorably when he thought Putin complimented him and praised him. And so it got started, a narrative that Trump and Putin are buddies. I don't know if there's any evidence for that. I think it's another lie. I think it's another false narrative that's out there that sets up all the rest of this. Who was it in 2012, shortly before the campaign, the presidential election, is Obama meeting with Putin's number 2, Dmitry Medvedev? There's an open mic. And Obama is overheard, and this was reported. You tell Vladimir that I'll have a lot more flexibility after the election. What he meant was, look, after I win the election, I can't run again, so I'm not have to worry about ever running again, so I can do all kinds of stuff. I'll be much more flexible. The conversation was about reducing United States nuclear weapons, not reducing Russia's nuclear weapons. It was about reducing the United States stockpile. And Obama told Medvedev, you tell Vlad I'll be a lot more flexible after the election. The Russian ambassador, if you must know, is a lobbyist. All ambassadors are lobbyists. That's how you have to look at them. They show up and they lobby for their countries in every which way you can imagine. Policy understanding, policy cooperation, trade deals, money, you name it. They're everywhere. The idea that the Russian ambassador be talking to Republicans and Democrats is some kind of a crime is absurd. But yet when the Russian ambassador is talking to Republicans, it is a crime today. You know why? Because of what started all of this. And that is the Russians worked with Trump to hack the election, to interfere and to deny Hillary what was her rightful election to the presidency. And so and there's no evidence for this, they haven't still found any evidence because there isn't any, because it couldn't have happened. But since everything in this story is fake news, everything about it is fake news, there never will be any evidence to this. So they can, and it's very difficult to prove a negative, but they're never going to be able to find the evidence to prove that there was this kind of cooperation between Trump and his campaign and the Russians to screw Hillary. It just doesn't exist. They're never even going to be able to prove that the Russians succeeded in altering what was to have been a Hillary win. They will never be able to prove that because it didn't happen. But that's the foundation under which, or on top of which, all of this is being built. So, when Republicans are meeting with the Russian ambassador, well, we ought to be suspicious of that because look what the Russians did with the Trump campaign to screw Hillary, you see. So it's surreal to watch this. Because every bit of this is fake news. And in fact, to the extent that the Democrats are making allegations, it's they who are guilty. I don't know how many times I have mentioned this story. I'll mention it again. In fact, J. Christian Adams has written about it today, PJ Media. Ted Kennedy, back in 1983, we know this because of, when the Soviet Union imploded, a bunch of KGB files ended up being released. And we learned that Ted Kennedy, Senator Ted Kennedy, prominent Democrat, 1983, was sending letters and having meetings, phone calls with prime ministers and presidents of the Soviet Union, like Yuri Andropov. And they were hatching a mutual strategy to get rid of Reagan in 1984. Ted Kennedy was doing everything he could to sabotage Reagan's reelection, and he was asking the Soviets to be patient in their dealings with the U.S. because it wouldn't be long and they'd be able to get rid of Reagan, and then things would return to normal. In fact, there has been collusion between the Soviets, i.e. the Russians, and Americans in trying to rig an election, except it happened in the 80s, Ted Kennedy and the Democrats trying to sabotage Reagan. There is no evidence that what is being alleged today has even happened. Because it didn't. Now there's news that, Trump's son-in-law met with the Russian ambassador. Oh, no, really? Wow, and so the drive-bys are just pantless over tongues are on the floor with anticipation. They think they're getting closer and closer to forcing Trump to resign without even having to go through with impeachment. So, my friends, make no mistake. I'm not taking anything away from what I said yesterday. I'm adding to it. We're watching a silent coup that was put in place by Obama and the Democrats during the transition and before, after the election. Do you know that now Sessions recused himself? Do you know who the top lawyer in the Justice Department is who will oversee whatever investigations there are? An Obama appointee. Yeah, Trump doesn't have his guy in yet. The Democrats haven't confirmed him. Now, the confirmation vote for the Trump guy, Deputy Number 2 DOJ, is Tuesday. I think even I, ladies and gentlemen, didn't quite see the full scope of what is going on here. I don't think that this is about just delaying Trump's cabinet and causing him some irritation, this kind of thing. I think it is what is happening here is a full-fledged effort here to deny Trump the actual control of governing, of the government, by leaving so many Obama career people appointed, by going so slowly on confirming Trump's cabinet appointees and other lesser bureaucratic positions that remain open and haven't been filled. And that's why it appears that Democrats are still running the show. It appears why even though the Republicans and Trump won the election, if you pay attention to drive-by news, it looks like the Democrats are running everything. They're still determining the daily news narratives. They're still pushing it, and they lost. The Democrat Party is a party that's just flailing. The Democrat Party as an electoral force has been decimated. But inside the Beltway, they are the power, and they're doing everything they can to delay and forestall Trump actually assuming control over his administration and over the government. In other words, they're trying to deny the presidency. The full force and the full capacity of the presidency is what's being denied to Donald Trump. And while that's happening, here come all of these allegations and all of these attempts to force everybody close to Trump to resign or recuse or hide or whatever in total embarrassment. Now, the Sessions specifics, we went through them yesterday. I'm going to go through them again today just to illustrate and back up the point that everything involving Sessions is fake news. We now know that it was the Obama administration that invited the Russian ambassador to the first meeting that Sessions had with a guy, and the Russian ambassador was meeting with all kinds of people. It was at the Republican convention. We mentioned it yesterday as a Heritage Foundation-sponsored event. The Russian ambassador is all over the Democrat Party. He's all over the White House. I'm telling you, if you want to find out who's really working together to sabotage the United States, you find the link between Barack Obama, Vladimir Putin, and the Russian government. That's the story. That's the need to invest. And here we go for the Daily Caller. Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak appeared as Obama White House visitor at least 22 times. If there is any collusion that's going on here, folks, it's between the Russians and Obama, and to whatever extent the Democrat Party, in order to run a silent coup on Donald Trump. You want some more evidence? It's from the New York Times. Each new revelation that someone connected to the Trump campaign met with the Russian ambassador is being treated as significant news. And eventually the Times does explain why this is supposed to matter. The Times says it is common and not improper for transition officials to meet with foreign officials. But all the meetings between Trump associates and the Russians are now significant because the FBI is investigating Russian interference in the American election and whether anyone close to the Trump campaign was involved. So you see, if they hadn't successfully established that foundation, none of the rest of this, none of this stuff on Sessions, none of it, you realize every bit of this originates from fake news. The fake news is that the Russians determined the outcome of the American election. Everything. The Times even admits it's common. Democrats, Republicans, Martians, everybody meets with the Russians. But because the FBI is investigating the connection between the Trump campaign and the Russians, well, we are duty-bound to pay very special attention to every one of these contacts. It's the biggest bunch of crap that we have seen yet. And it is only going to get bigger and bigger until somebody deals with this and exposes to the American people what's going on. Our country is so divided that everything I've just told you, that you have been told in one form or another for the past weeks or months, do you realize I would venture to say that 95% of Democrats don't know one thing, what I'm talking about. They haven't heard one thing of this because of the media they watch. Be right back. You know, it's accurate, but it doesn't fully explain things to describe this as the Democrats trying to deny Trump as president.